Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be demoing a very basic project that shows you how to get started with NAPI-RS. I think it's a very interesting project. It makes it super easy to create Node.js add-ons in Rust. I think that's a cool use case, especially because I think Rust it's great for performance critical code, but I like Node.js for making web servers, especially if you want to make an API. Express is just really easy to use. And, I don't see the point in doing that in Rust just to get some of the performance out of it. So in this video, I'm going to make a really simple demo where we're going to have an Express server and it's going to call some Rust functions. So I'll start with a fresh Visual Studio window. The first thing you're going to want to do to follow along in this demo is install the NAPI CLI. This is a really nice tool. It will just create the project structure for you in advance. But before we actually get to the Rust side, let me create a very simple Node.js server for us to just start. We'll do a quick hello world, and that's going to get us started. So it'll be a good refresher as well. So I'll do npm init y. Cool. I'll do new file server.js. We'll do npm install express. Let that run. We'll do const. All right, so creating an Express app. It gets application. So you do this so many times you forget. I think it's just this. Yeah. And then we'll do an app, we'll create a simple get. You can skip ahead if you already know this part, but I think it's a good refresher if you're new to Node. And we'll just do return response dot okay, listen, and then I think it's listen dot, okay, I'll have it listen on 3000. You can pick any number here, it doesn't actually matter. Okay, cool. Now let's quickly check if this part is working. So I'll do node server.js. Okay, good. And if I go to localhost 3000. All right, cool. So the server is working. And then we'll get back to this later. We're going to add to this file in a little bit, but now we're going to get on to the Rust part. So after you've run this command, npm install -g. -g is really important because it's going to install it globally. But when you have the NAPI CLI, you can do NAPI new, and I'll call this module, what did I call it? I'll call it just Rust functions. Hope I spelled functions right. Rust. Yeah, cool. Yep, so we're going to just press enter. This part, again, we'll just press enter. We'll go with the defaults. This part, you can just go with the defaults as well and go enable definition. Oh, yeah, we'll go yes here. And then no on GitHub Actions. Okay, at this point, we have this new folder called Rust functions. You notice it matches the name I gave it, and they've created the project structure for us already. So we'll just, in the command line, go into that and let's see if it compiles. So let me explain how that works. So it creates this package JSON, and you'll notice that it has a build command. So we're just going to do npm build from within this package, within the Rust functions. And let's see if it works. It doesn't work. Oh yeah, I gotta do npm run build. Okay. Let's hope it works the first time. You gotta have Rust installed as well. I'll put some links on how to install Rust. I'm using Windows, but you should be able to follow along on Linux and Mac as well. There we go. Okay. Let it build. Okay, while it's building, let me show you a few other things. So all of our Rust code is going to go in this folder called source, lib.rs. Notice how it comes with a function out of like just predefined. One of the important parts, or I think the most important part when you're doing this, is this macro. This lets the compiler know that we need to create, like, set it up so that the function's available in Node.js. Okay, we've built it. So before we write any more Rust code, I want to actually show that we're able to get this function in our Node.js process. So I'll show you one more thing. We look at this index.d.ts. Notice how this Rust functions, which is itself, if you think of it as a Node module, it has this function called +100, and that's going to match what we have here. It does some stuff with the naming. I'll show you later how we can control the naming, but essentially it automatically changes everything to camel case, and it gets rid of the underscores. Okay, so at this point we've built the Rust library. So in the command line, we're going to go back to our main project directory. This is where our actual server lives, and we can do npm install. This part's really important. /rust underscore functions. And let's let that run. And then I'll show you what that does. Something interesting. There's two really interesting things, which we'll see in a minute. Okay. If I knew how to edit videos, I would just speed this part up, but I don't really know how to edit yet. Let's let it run. Okay, cool. So now if we look, this is the package JSON in the main, like our actual server, and notice how it added Rust functions into our list of dependencies. Also notice how, unlike dependencies you would install from npm, it says file Rust function. So it knows that it's actually going to look in this local directory and find this folder. And then here it's going to look for index.js. This is an auto-generated file, and it does a lot of the stuff it needs to do for the bindings. Another interesting thing is if you look at the node modules folder for our main project, notice how it actually puts our library that we wrote in here, but it's a link to it. They didn't actually copy it, but it's like a symbolic link. So all of that code's right there. I thought that was interesting. Okay, so now let's see if we're able to actually import it into our server. So I'll just go here, and it should work like any other import. I'll do +100 equals require. I should be able to do Rust functions. Okay, so I should explain where is this +100 coming from. So it's looking into this module, and it's assigning that, it's binding that function to this name. And it only works because I used the same exact name here. If I used some other name, it wouldn't work. But let's just test. If I control click, it actually does link it. So I think it's working now. So now let's create another really simple path. We'll call it +100, and we'll go request. Then we'll do equal, and we'll skip that. We'll just go here, and we'll do +100, and we'll do end. And I'm not going to do any checks on like whether end's a number or not. We'll keep it simple. Okay, let's test this now. So I should be able to do npm node server.js. Okay. Guys listening. So now let's do +100. Okay, so okay, that didn't work. We got to do a little bit of a change. So I do need to. So I think it's coming. N is coming as a string, and we got to make sure it's a number. Okay. So this part is important. I'm gonna make sure the types match. Let's run that again. All right, cool. Now it's working. And now here's the important part. This function +100, it's not a JavaScript function. It's actually binding to the Rust binary that's created. So in our Rust functions folder, there is a binary somewhere. I think it's probably going to be under build. I don't know where it actually is, but you can imagine there's an actual like executable in there, or like a library that is being linked to our node process. And for like a really simple example, like adding 100, it doesn't really matter. But for some larger computations, it will make a really big difference in speed. So let's now that we've got it working, I'm going to create another function, and we'll look at a few other I think interesting features. So again, we're going to Rust functions source lib.rs, and we're going to create another one again with the macro. So NAPI fn, we'll call it, we'll check is prime and do input with u32. And then, yeah, I'm just going to look at my notes because I don't want to try to figure this out live. Okay, so now let's do if, I'll just copy the code here. It doesn't really make sense to type it all out. I'll walk through the function if you're interested. So we've got a few nice little checks to make it faster, and then this part is a loop. It loops through checks that there aren't any numbers you can divide by. And if there's nothing you can divide by up until that number, it returns true. Okay, so now again, we can close this. And, to make our life a little bit easier, instead of having to do cd Rust functions and then npm run build, what we can do instead is in our package JSON in the main one, we can go to scripts. We can add a script called build, and in it we can go cd Rust functions. And I think we can go and. I think that's the syntax. I'm really bad with this part, to be honest. Yeah, it's and. and go npm run build. So that's just going to make it'll make playing around with this a little bit nicer. So now we never have to actually go into that folder. We can just do npm run build from here. And it's going to build the new function. Okay, let's see, why is it complaining? Okay, let's call it n. There's a typo there. Okay, now let's look over here. So now I created this function is prime. Now I wanted to show one other feature on NAPI. Like if you don't like how it's changing the names, you can always do in the macro, you can put these arguments. I can do JS name is equal to, I'll force it to match the name I have over here, and that's not a problem. So we'll build it again. And I expect it to have the underscore. If for whatever reason you want to keep the underscore. Okay, so now if we look at this file, and notice it has the underscore. Okay, great. So now we can import it just the same is prime, and then we can create a very similar root. All right, let's run this again. So now we do, let me put another run. I'm gonna have all the code in GitHub as well, so you can look at this later if you want. And then I'll also have instructions on some of the commands so you can follow along. So this part's always a good thing to put in your projects where you just define what the entry point is. So you have run, I'll do node server.js. Server.js is, of course, this file, which is our actual Express server. So now I can do npm run server. Okay. npm run start, I think. Yeah. I don't know why that worked, actually. It should have been, this should be start. That was weird. Okay. Cool. So now we can do is prime. And of course, 50 is not prime. Do 7. 7 is prime. So it's working just fine. And I think I'll make another video where we could look at other examples, but I think that's it for now. I'll just call out, like, the reason why this works is it's using something called the application binary interface. So NAPI's done a lot of the work behind the scenes to set up our build so that it's compiling the Rust code in a very particular way so that our node process can take that binary and call those functions as if you're calling just a regular JavaScript library. I think it's really neat because you use it as if it's a JavaScript library, but instead it's actually calling your separate program under the hood, your own Rust function. So you can have all sorts of optimizations, or you can use a lot of, if you're just more comfortable with Rust syntax. Okay, thank you for watching.